All right, it's a very sunny day out here on Sunday. Sunny day on Sunday. Wonderful. So, on behalf of yesterday's video, on behalf of this whole thing of individuation, I wanted to kind of like explore it a bit more because, um, after putting this whole thing together and kind of like thinking about like potential reactions and stuff, because that's one of the most interesting things regarding an endeavor like this, regarding kind of like a pursuit, or you know, um, looking at something that is a much bigger picture than anything else, right? And I think that this is something that a lot of people could really appreciate because it has to do with growth, it has to do with healing, it has to deal with individuality, well, individuation, right? Has to deal with, evolution, authenticity, personal truth, and I think that that's why this is something very important to explore. Um, so this is day two, and then of course once we get to the 10th itself, the 10th of October and the 10th of every other month, that's also kind of like another day, another kind of like highlighted day or spotlighted day in regards to this whole process. But looking at day two, um, you know, I guess what I want to talk about here is this idea of kind of like cutting the umbilical cord, and this goes on. This goes beyond, you know, maternal relationships and everything. Um, a lot of people are very sucked into other people's opinions, right? Um, Not only do they get like high off them and everything, they actually gain their overall sense of self from them, and that is extremely detrimental because if where you derive your sense of self is just altogether coming from another person, right? You're gonna have a very hard time with life because you're not gonna be grounded in who you are as a person, um, and if you're not grounded in who you, if you don't know yourself, if you don't take the time to consciously rid yourself of everything that you are not, and then beyond that take the time to consciously know yourself, to actually see yourself, to gain clarity, to see yourself clearly, right? You're gonna have a very hard time with life because you're not gonna have any, you're not gonna have any ground for a foundation. I'm very excited to have a conversation with my partner on behalf of this because I think that there will be some very interesting insights and everything. Again, this is the first time that I've ever done anything like this before, and like it's also very interesting because I guess I'll talk about like my own kind of like reflection, my own thoughts on behalf of this endeavor. Um, I put together a picture that was like the declaration of the month of October and the 10th of every month as the month and day of individuation. When I looked at declaration, right, immediately like what I thought was like the Declaration of Independence. But then what I thought beyond that, which I thought was very interesting, was looking at it and like I was thinking to myself, I was like, dude, who the fuck are you to declare anything? And like looking at that, like that also goes into trauma. And I'm not claiming myself as somebody who's high and mighty or anything, um, at all, but I do think that I have good ideas. I think that I see things in a way that is very expansive and very insightful and very you know creative and productive, and I'm super grateful about that. But like I looked at the way that I approached it and stuff, and it was like the declaration, and it's like that's fucking massive. Right? So like even with that, like there is also like kind of like pushback from myself, with my own thought processes of like, dude, who the fuck are you to declare anything? Who are you to declare anything at all? Like, save that for, I don't know. Like there's another belief system that comes up. It's like save that for the big boys, right? But this isn't about that. And that in and of itself, that idea of save that for the big boys, it's a belief. It's a belief of inadequacy. It's a belief of lack, right? That I'm not good enough as a person. And that's really what this whole thing is about. This whole thing of individuation. It is ridding oneself of the layers, the bullshit, the masks, right? Um, and again, all of that stuff comes from childhood trauma. It comes from projections from parents onto children. Um, if you want to see yourself, right? If you really want to know yourself, look at how you were raised. You know, one of the other things that I think is very interesting about this too is that I see a lot of things on social media where people are trying to sell masculinity or this idea of being a man or becoming a man to people. And, like, to each his own. Like, do whatever the fuck you want. I'm not going to tell you not to do anything. But what I am going to say is that when you are raised in a way that kind of like blinds you from seeing yourself, fully, wholly, right? And when I say holy, I don't mean Holy. I mean, or I should just say, in a way that is wholesome. There we go. Whole. Whole. Um, it's like, it's really just an illusion. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. There are things that happen in your life that molded your psyche and your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings and your actions, your behaviors, everything into a very specific way. But there's nothing wrong with you, right? And a lot of people have a very hard time recognizing that. So therefore, they're coming from a place of lack. And as they're coming from a place of lack, they see these things where it's like, there's something wrong with you. There's clearly something wrong with you. You lack something and you know it. You could be better and you're not. And it's like, okay, so now they're being led to believe that they need to become something separate from who they are, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and, like, point the finger at anybody and say that anyone's doing it wrong or that it's, like this, that, and the other. I'm just always very fascinated when I see people being sold from a place of lack, because that's never productive, right? And it's very easy to convince somebody that there's something wrong with them and then sell them something based on that lack. And I'm just going to say that in the area of personal growth where it's like becoming, right? A lot of this stuff is actually, it's more so becoming, but from a standpoint of chiseling away, right? What are you chiseling away? You're chiseling away low self-esteem. And how are you chiseling that away? Oh, you're chiseling away low self-esteem by realizing that the person that left you when you were younger, that was their shit and not yours. But because you were so young, you mistook it for your shit. So you couldn't, you grew up thinking that there was something wrong with you. So of course you're going to go after, all these beliefs that there is. Not only that, of course you're going to go after things that people are trying to sell to you, ideas that they're trying to sell to you based on what you lack, right? Because you're attracted to, you see an issue within yourself. You see an issue within yourself, and then based on that, it's like, well, clearly there's something wrong with me, and it sounds like this guy over here is the solution, so I'm going to buy that product, I'm going to buy this story, this narrative, and I'm going to buy into it, I'm going to mold that fucking shit into my psyche, and then I'm going to evolve that way. And it's like, well, when really all you needed to realize was that, oh, wait a second, I have attachment issues because I was abandoned when I was younger. Oh shit, I don't show up for myself because I grew up with somebody who emotionally abandoned me over and over again. And this whole time I haven't seen that clearly. And the way that I've approached that was, yeah, I just suck fucking shit and I don't deserve anything good. I definitely don't deserve showing up for myself. So when you see it clearly and you see it from the standpoint of, never mind, that person just had shit, and because of their inability to follow through with and for themselves, they have an inability to follow through for anybody else. And that got projected onto me. And so through all these years, because I was in such a vulnerable state and I didn't see myself clearly, I didn't know myself clearly, I mistook their shit as my shit when they projected it onto me. When they said to me, hey, we're going to go kick a soccer ball, or hey, we're gonna go do this, we're going to go do that, and it never happened. Yeah, that's emotional abandonment. If that happens in someone's life very early on, consistently, over and over again, they're going to grow up with the belief that there's something wrong with them because they were not worth showing up for. And so that's going to mold their psyche into ideas of unworthiness, of lack, of low self-esteem, when it never had anything to do with them. But it's going to evolve them in a way that has them, just not showing up for themselves, thus not showing up for other people. It's crazy how this stuff works. So, I appreciate what Ram Dass kind of the idea, the energy that he follows with all this stuff, because you look everywhere out there, you'll see ideas of becoming something or somebody separate from the self, right? But Ram Dass, like, this is a matter of chiseling away the bullshit, not adding to the bullshit. Not look at this layer of you that is just fucking marred and disgusting and bullshit. Like most people are like, let's not even. Well, for starters, most people are like, you don't have to look at that. Don't worry about that. The only reason that they take that route is because they have no clinical training. I'm not saying that I do. It's just that I'm saying that from what I've learned through everything in my life, therapy especially, is that the very reason that a person is the way that they are is because of their upbringing. They were conditioned by things that traumatized them. And understanding that and going through that is very important. Going through the process and the practice of actually going within yourself and seeing yourself for who and what you are, understanding where everything came from, why it came from that, and then moving forward. Yeah, it's very easy to be sold on ideas of lack and ideas of you're not good enough as you are. I'm not going to say that anyone is good enough as they are. I believe that everyone can become better, even beyond all that stuff, beyond like crazy. But what I am saying is that I would not argue that there is a need to make people believe that they that for no reason they suck shit and they just need to become more of this or more of that. Like, no, no. you know Abandonment wounds, right? Yep, attachment issues right there. That, understanding that in and of itself, and going in and doing the work and everything, and then reapproaching yourself and your life and your relationships, that can change everything. It literally can change everything. So yeah, I'm very interested in this, and I'm excited to continue this process and stuff. Again, this is individuation, something that Carl Jung, one of the most famous psychologists out there, Carl Jung, talked about. And it's basically, it's a matter of just shedding skin. It's a matter of ridding oneself of all of the falsities that is not of the self. Separate from family, separate from parents, separate from friends, really having your own unit and being able to be for yourself and, think for yourself and everything, form your own opinions, be your own self despite what anyone else thinks about it. That's really what this is all about, and I'm excited to see how this journey unfolds moving forward.